dudes, JC here from Toy News International, and for today's review I'm going to be bringing you my non-spoiler thoughts for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow movie, which opens in theaters this weekend. So I got a chance to see a screening of the movie yesterday, and I didn't go into the theater with very high expectations. I was not a fan of the last Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I really didn't like it at all. So I had seen some stuff in the trailers that I kind of liked, such as Rocksteady and Bebop, but overall I just didn't have high expectations. And I've got to say, from like a story standpoint, the overall plot is pretty thin. It definitely stretches the realms of believability with all the a lot of the action scenes and everything. And you know, that's somewhat to be expected. Obviously we're talking about talking turtles, but usually with these kind of movies, with a superhero movie and such, you know, you'll take characters that are kind of outlandish, but you'll put them in settings that are you know, meant to be believable. Like you could imagine seeing somebody, a superhero with superpowers, really, you know, fighting crime in the city type deal. Well, with this, it was just kind of like, everything was just kind of far-fetched, and I think they just said, screw it, we're not even going to really bother with that. We're just going to put together a movie with lots of big explosions and action scenes and high-flying stunts. And that's definitely what you get with this movie. And so I think from a younger kid standpoint, and I definitely think that's who this movie was primarily made for, I think they will come out of the theater enjoying it. There's definitely a lot of fun scenes that I think younger kids will enjoy. Also, if you were a big fan of the 80s cartoon, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon from the 80s, there's a lot of nods to that show in this movie, and so I think there's definitely stuff you'll take away from that as well that you'll enjoy. I liked Rocksteady and Bebop. They were definitely the stars of the show. I think they stole the movie. The CGI with them was pretty decent, and very much like I remember in the old cartoon. Krang was okay. I mean, I think they did as best a job they could with a character of that type. Definitely, you know, all CGI. I thought the robot suit was a little funky looking. It looked like the top of his head was cut off, which I thought was a little weird. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job. I didn't like, basically, when Krang would talk, he kind of pops out of the stomach so that you can see him in full, which I'm sure is why they did it. But I would have preferred, I think, if they had left him inside the torso to talk, you know, kind of like the old cartoon. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job with that. Shredder, his suit was pretty basic. It was pretty much all black, not a lot of detail, but it didn't look bad. You know, it didn't really look like something Shredder wears in the cartoon and the comics, but it didn't look bad. I thought the blades looked good. I thought his blades looked pretty good. And his helmet didn't look bad. He only wears the helmet for a very short time in the movie, but when he does have it on, I think it looked pretty decent. Baxter, I thought, was okay. I'm not going to give away whether you see him as a fly or not, but as Baxter Stockman, I think he did a pretty decent job. April and the Turtles and Splinter, they're pretty much and Vern were pretty much all on par with what, you know, we saw in the last movie. So if you liked them in that movie, you shouldn't have a problem with them in this movie. If you didn't like him in that movie, then you're probably not going to like him in this movie. And then Casey Jones. Casey Jones was probably my least favorite character in this movie, and not because I thought Stephen Yeun did a bad job in the movie. You know, I had no problem watching him in the movie. I like him as an actor. I like him in Arrow. But as Casey Jones, they just did not portray Casey Jones very well in this movie. They changed a lot of what I think of as Casey Jones. And so, you know, out of all the characters in this movie, he was least like the source material as I recall it. So that was probably my least favorite character in the movie. But again, it's not it's not like, oh my God, I can't stand watching this type thing. I just didn't think they did a good job of portraying him as Casey Jones. In the movie, he's a correctional police officer that basically is trying to apprehend some fugitives, and I won't say who, but ends up needing the help of the Turtles and April and stuff. Again, like I said, he was probably my least favorite of the bunch in the movie. So just to kind of sum up, so if I had to describe this movie and just a quick blurb, I would say take the campiness of the 60s Batman television series, take action sequences from a Power Rangers movie, and then just dump in tons of CGI effects, and this is the movie that you would get. So don't expect a lot from the plot, don't expect a lot from character development, but if you're looking for just a lot of fun action sequences with cool CGI effects and characters like Rocksteady and Bebop running around busting up crap, then I think this is definitely a movie that you're going to enjoy. So if you check it out, let me know in the comments what you think. Now, real quick, I also wanted to share some thoughts. Last week I told you I was playing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game for the PlayStation 4, Mutants in Manhattan from Activision. Now, I'm not a big video gamer. This isn't by any means a full-on video game review, but I just want some of you to ask what I thought of the game. And I just wanted to share some quick thoughts. I've had a little more time to play it since I last talked about it. So overall, I kind of feel like this game was rushed. It's got some good aspects. I like some of the cinematic sequences. I think that looks pretty good. You know, it looks good in the game and stuff. But I definitely feel like they kind of just rushed this out to get it out in time for the movie. It does have a multiplayer mode, but you can only play it multiplayer online. It would have been cool if you could have played, you know, like 2 people on the couch or something. I definitely think the game is more fun to play in multiplayer mode. It just gets kind of really boring and repetitive pretty quickly when you're playing in single player mode. It's not terribly difficult. Very much, you know, has the look and feel of the Transformer Devastation game. So if you played that game, you kind of know. But I don't think it's quite as well done as that game, just because there's a lot of times where it just seems kind of choppy. And I don't like, you got to wear these things called T-glasses to be able, which allows you to see through walls and stuff. And to find stuff, you got to always be putting these glasses on. So I don't really like that. And just like I said, the overall gameplay is just, it gets really kind of repetitive and boring. After the first level, I was getting kind of bored with it. Just the overall gameplay, at least in single player mode, I thought was kind of boring. But if you do, you know, get online and play with 3 buddies or something, then I think the game definitely has more appeal that way. So that's my thoughts on that. So I hope you guys go out and check out the movie this weekend. Like I said, if you do, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, I'll catch you later.